This is the devotional for Sunday, May the 23rd. The title of our devotional is The Death of a Leader, Not an End, but a New Beginning. The scripture reading is Joshua chapter 1. Now a little bit of the background. The death of God's servants. Understand that it never takes them by surprise, and no leader is indispensable. Deuteronomy 34 and verse 5, Moses was dead according to the word and the will of the Lord. And for 30 days Israel mourned his death. I believe Joshua felt the loss of his mentor. But when the days of mourning were complete, the Lord came to Joshua and said, Moses my servant is dead. Now therefore arise, go over this Jordan, thou and all this people, unto the land which I do give to them, even to the children of Israel. Joshua 1 through 2. Now I'm sure there were some in Israel who were dismayed. Israel was beginning to take on the greatest test of their faith. And the task before them was one that the generation before them had failed. They were to enter and take possession of Canaan, the land that the Lord had promised their forefathers. And now the question, who was Joshua? Well, as you read Joshua chapter 1 and verse 1, with modest fanfare, Joshua is introduced simply as the son of Nun, Moses' minister. You see, he had served Moses as a servant and attendant. And for 40 years, he had shadowed that great leader. When Moses received the Ten Commandments, Joshua was there. When he sent men to spy out the promised land, Joshua was named among them. When he faced times of strife and insurrection within Israel, Joshua had been at the side of Moses. When the nation went to battle against his enemies, it was Joshua who led Israel into the fray. Joshua, you see, was a proven leader. But most importantly, he was the man whom the Lord had chosen as the successor of Moses. In the sight of all Israel, Moses had confirmed and charged him. And the children of Israel hearkened unto him and did as the Lord commanded Moses. Deuteronomy 34 and verse 9. Now the challenge. I think the challenge I would sum up in this passage would be this. Stop looking back and go over this Jordan. The Lord stated two initial commands to Joshua. The first was, stop looking back, for Moses, my servant, is dead. You see, Moses was a man without equal. However, his ministry was ended. And the second command, go over this Jordan, the time for mourning had ended, and it was essential that the focus of Israel would be upon the Lord, and with a clear view of the task that was before them, crossing the Jordan, taking the land the Lord had promised as their inheritance. Now I find in Joshua chapter 1 and verses 1 through 9, what I would suggest are three keys to crossing the Jordan River. Not only for Israel, but three keys for us to cross over and take that step of faith in our life. Well, the first key was a listening ear. In Joshua 1 and verse 1, the Lord spake unto Joshua. Now, according to Joshua 3 and verse 15, the Jordan River was in flood. And so the question would be, how would a nation of some 10 million people cross a river in its flood stage with no bridges or ferries? Well, the second would be this then. The first, listening ear. The second, believing faith. Joshua needed to claim and believe all that God had promised. And then thirdly, Joshua needed to obey God's command. Be strong and of a good courage and observe to do according to all the law. This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night. So we have there Joshua chapter 1, verses 1 through 8, a listening ear, believing faith, and obey God's commands. Well, Joshua 1 verses 10 through 18, I would suggest is the preparation for battle. With the Lord's promise to be with him, Joshua immediately commanded the officers of the people to prepare to cross Jordan, and I quote, within 3 days. He gave orders for the tribes that would inhabit the lands on the east side of Jordan to send their best warriors, the mighty men of valor, to fight beside the other tribes. Now, I want to invite you to consider what I would suggest are 4 ways that the people encouraged Joshua as he assumed the mantle of leadership. Well, the first was they had hearts of submission to duty. The second, they vowed their allegiance, saying, as we hearken unto Moses in all things, so we will hearken unto thee. And thirdly, they affirmed Joshua and they declared, only the Lord thy God be with thee as he was with Moses. And lastly, they assured Joshua they would be intolerant of insubordination in their ranks. I read Joshua 1 and verse 18. Whosoever he be that doth rebel against thy commandment, and will not hearken unto thy words in all that thou commandest him, he shall be put to death. Only, Joshua, be strong and of a good courage. My friend, I would say to you today, whether you're in a ministry, a church ministry, you're in a school ministry, you're in an institution that follows biblical and spiritual principles, these are great truths to bless your leaders. Have a heart of submission. Vow your allegiance. Affirm them. And then lastly, assure them that you will be intolerant of insubordination. You think about how much a heartache a leader in a ministry would be spared if the members of a church or the employees of an organization were everything the people of Israel promised to be under Joshua's leadership. You see, a disloyalty was a serious offense in Israel. And I would say to you today, it is the same today. Romans 16 and verse 17, now I beseech you, brethren, mark them which cause division and offenses contrary to the truth, to the doctrine, to the commandments, to the law, which ye have learned, and avoid them. You might find yourself today in an organization, in a ministry, in a school, and there is a spirit of disloyalty among one or two or some. Realize that is a great offense to an holy God. And you have a responsibility. Note them, mark them, and avoid them. And I encourage you to do that today. God bless you. We are going to continue to look into the book of Joshua for life principles, taking on a new land and a new opportunity. God bless you and